당도 이제 저게 나 전주 선배게 돈바 손에 전주 선배 줘봐 라야당 안에 전주 선배게 자동 송야지 안에 되네 안에 파신주게 전주 선배 줘 바로 친구 라야당 안에 타바도 안에 딩이 제 신의 주비야디 어두스진의 디고 시사래 자다 되네 지내다 전주 선배기 Nia lam nyamlen che ni rimba dinesh parle da deso lava sumina ne karenal tyro re labna ane ji meni jejusim be domba sonwa manche ma chujumi la bena la dures na dinge ji da shine juye ge shine de da dinge ji la bena la du dine shine di nga ne domba yin le ji ji du mi be nga ne da ha dong ju be ha do shirap di da ane 샤리기 라베나라 뒤그레서 다지 올라봐 숨면에 뒤나디 도스치네 뒤로를 세티네시 주로와 당주요.
Good afternoon. This morning we looked at how the Bodhisattva, having generated bodhicitta and reflected on the precepts of aspiring bodhicitta, and then given rise to the wish to train in the Bodhisattva trainings, the actual practices of the Bodhisattva, receives the Bodhisattva vow, and then engages in the practices of the Bodhisattva. And of the various perfections to train in, whilst all 6 need to be trained in, particular emphasis is placed on concentration and wisdom. And thereafter we looked at how the entirety of the Bodhisattva's trainings can be included within the threefold division of the 3 higher trainings, with special meditative insight and wisdom, the reflection on emptiness, included in the 3rd higher training, the higher training in wisdom, and the development of calm abiding, concentration itself, is included in the higher training of concentration. And the 1st higher training, the higher training in ethics, which is the foundation for the other 2, this includes all the preceding bodhisattva trainings, such as bodhicitta itself and love and compassion, as well as the other 4 perfections.
Samuel Lami Imbe, and a Dadago Korimdang, Drang Ebada, Tapshe, and a Yadelgi, Jachu Midubala, Nyaba Chimbo Geberjaos.
So continuing in the text in the handouts, the ebook we're in the middle of page 83, and on the published book, the final paragraph on page 72. Furthermore, everything up to and including shamatha constitutes the method aspect, the accumulation of merit, the path of conventional truths, and the stages of the vast path. Whereas the generation of the 3 special types of wisdom constitutes the wisdom aspect, the accumulation of wisdom, that which is based on ultimate truths, and the stages of the profound path. Therefore, you need to develop great certainty regarding their order and enumeration, as well as the fact that enlightenment cannot be attained by means of method and wisdom separately.
Kunzu Timbale Timber Lambda, and Dona Timbale Timber Lam, Lam Yawalas Mekava Niche. Dinea Yachi Lamirimbaza, and Ejica, Samuel Lamirimba, says on to Sine, Cabar chair that in the Jungorum. Dinezada, Dine Anzuki Lam Yamling Rimba Yamlin Tite, Lam Tona, Tonina Dugor, Egereda, Tonina la Carissina Dugorson, Sonem Sola, she Tonina Dugor, Egereda. Lam Yamling Rimba Chasapa, Dubana, Deshi Jovesheva, Labasumina, Lam Yirman Chazada, Labasumna, Dugorese, this Dita Sonja. That there saw the lesson, saw the issue, so new banana inza, that Lam Yamling Chaza, and Sonina Dugore, Sonam saw the issue, Sonina Dugorese.
So in the previous paragraph, what we looked at this morning, we saw that the entirety of the Bodhisattva trainings can be included within the 3 higher trainings. Here, we also come to look at how the entirety of the Bodhisattva trainings are included in the 2 accumulations, namely the accumulation of method and the accumulation of wisdom. And I made reference to this last night when we spoke about the refuge and bodhicitta prayer, that His Holiness changed one word in it so that it refers to the accumulations, and then one can recall that it refers to both accumulations of method and wisdom. And we see here that in this paragraph, within the two accumulation of method and accumulation of wisdom, then there are various other ways of dividing the teachings included within there, such as the 2 truths, the paths divided into the profound and the vast. I think those 2.
탑다 22세 탑기다 22세 지체로와 제사데 신의 마치게 탑디게 아니 저게다 베네 잠니 조건반에 소제 아니 장주sem다 아니 진바도 출음라서 세바 전주 단 삼대 신의다 디 신의세 동반이 또 비시 신의 멤버 지당 아주 신의세 저러와디 데네게 신의 만제디 디 만제다 가르쳐왔으네 아니 람기 탑나 시라니나네 안 탑차고래서 탑차고래서 레다 신의 만체스도 신의 딩이제로 와다 탑단 시럽이 차도 다디스도 탑나 차고래서 안데디 나 동반이름이 비 시럽디 시럽 차고래다 로와 탑단 시럽다 람 차산이베 뒤나 탑단 시럽이나 뒤로 그래라래 제가 신의 만체스도 동이 또 별로 마인비게다 마인비게 람 가네시네 탑기 차래서 그래 동반이 또 별로디다 시럽기 차례에서 시럽되다 동 시럽기 차례에서 탑단 시럽이나 뒤그래서 현야 신의 만체 탑장으로 신의기 만체데 안에 잠니제 장주셈 동반이 가소리 진바 춘주 죄바 삼준주 안에 삼대 만체데다 탑리에서 탑이 차례에서
So whilst the previous paragraph, we saw how all the Bodhisattva trainings are included within the 3 high trainings, here we see how the Bodhisattva practices are included in the 2 accumulations, the accumulation of method and the accumulation of wisdom. The accumulation of wisdom specifically refers to the wisdom realizing emptiness. Then if we look, and then everything other than the wisdom realizing emptiness is included within the accumulation of merit. So then looking at the first line, furthermore, everything up to and including shamatha or calm abiding constitutes the method aspect. So the accumulation of method includes everything up to the perfection of concentration. So here we should understand calm abiding to be not referring to the calm abiding and meditative insight that is realizing emptiness. Not referring to calm abiding in that context, but calm abiding when not associated with wisdom, not associated with the wisdom realizing emptiness. That calm abiding and everything else prior to that is included in the method aspect.
신의 만체디라 내 자산에 동반이름이 신의 디야다 람 탑신이기나네 탑이 차르디 단 동반이 또비 시럽 코로 네 시럽이 차듯이 람 시럽 차듯이 디시
Just before Geshe continues, I just correct myself. I misspoke in that segment. So what is being divided here is the entirety of the bodhisattva practice into method and wisdom. Within that are the accumulations of method and wisdom, but the greater division, division is between method and wisdom. So within this, one finds within the method side everything that is other than the wisdom realizing emptiness that is the wisdom realizing emptiness is on the wisdom side. So that's the division into method and wisdom. Later we're about to come to the accumulation of merit and accumulation of wisdom. I think I said that's the division. But rather actually the accumulation of merit and wisdom is included in a greater capacity of a greater category of method and wisdom.
Go dene jimbe nyamna churenya sube nyamna zunre nyamna samde nyamlen dibado dimancheda tabshini ginane and tabki chache di and samde sherap sidu tomai du shera sidu shera parchen nyamlendi the sherap ge chalet padi daya is so dele sonemi so da yishi so yin shi she de jizada deji shine samde gi ben jimba churenya sube zunre samde nyamanje de 디마 차상 안에 람 선음 소다 이시 손이나 내 가르라네 선음이 소리에서 동반이 또 배셔럽 되게다 이시 손을 뒤로 그래서
In this greater category of method and wisdom, within method then, we have the first 5 perfections of generosity, of ethics, of patience, joyous perseverance, and concentration. And the 6th perfection of wisdom is in the wisdom category. Furthermore, within the method category, one finds the accumulation of merit, and in the wisdom category, the accumulation of wisdom.
수기 구여와 수기 구주야기 규조디 지가 이나 최고 주야기 규지거든 규지거데 있는 조디 안에 상이기 수구주의 규지거래제래 แต่이시 소디 조 안에 상이기 최고 주의 규지거래제래 이 주고 조디
Within the method category, one finds the accumulation of merit, and in the wisdom category, the accumulation of wisdom. The accumulation of merit primarily is the primary cause for the attainment of the Rupakaya, the form body of the Buddha, and the accumulation of wisdom is the primary cause for the attainment of the Dhammakaya, the truth body.
Bene lamdelada bene tapki chara shirge cha ni che ya chen ni che dina ni na du ru lam cha sa dina du go che ya ne suen de mi chuo da yi xie chuo ni na de du ta ji che lam cha sa suen de mi chuo da yi xie chuo ni na du ru de ni ne me du lam che me che di xie da de ne ya kun zu tian ba le tian be lam da duan dem tian ba le tian be lam sa ji yong ru wa ji sa da kun zu tian ba le tian be la dong yu du bi gi xie ra ga su ma yin bi ge lam cha sa da kun zu tian ba le tian be lam sa cha ru re dina diuri pende jimba sudun soba sa de so dine 동방이 또 베시라 코롱 donam dimbela 코로 donam dimbale dimbelam sido 코 유디 동방이 또 베시라 동방이 진다 유드신 또 베기 다 람면자 데라 군도 donam dimbelam 제자다 dine 자다데 신내만 제디게 가르스네 군도 dimbal에 dimbelam 레세지 송도 군도 dimbal에 dimbelam 당스.
So within the greater category of method and wisdom, we have respectively the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom, and we also can divide the paths into the paths of conventional truths and the paths of ultimate truths. So the paths of conventional truths are all contained in the method side, and the paths of ultimate truths, namely the wisdom realizing emptiness, are included in the wisdom side. So the paths of conventional truths will be, for example, generosity, ethics, patience, concentration, and joyous perseverance, whereas the wisdom realizing emptiness is included in the path of ultimate truths.
Tene sambelam yirimba seda tongbangi tubi shirab yungo kiba lam tegela gyachiwa lam yirimba sa dina dusin yawa ina durugureshire.
And paths then can also be divided into those which are of the vast and those of the profound. Those of the vast or rather those of the profound refers to, the parts of the profound refer to the wisdom realizing emptiness, and that's included in the wisdom side. And parts of the vast, this is everything other than emptiness, the wisdom realizing emptiness, and this is included in the parts of the vast in the method side.
Denime Geshe Lamrim by Inla Sidi, Chesada Shinema Lamdi Karelamna, and Taki Chare, Sonam Yusore, Kunzu Timbala Timbe Lamre, Geshe Lamrim by such this word.
So as we see in the text then, when we divide into method and wisdom, on the method side, you can divide the path, you'd include the paths of the accumulation of merit, the paths based on conventional truths, and the stages of the vast path.
Yachi Lam said, Sunum you saw, said, this Chazan, and that Ming Kunzu Timbala Timber Lam Lion do, Dagajele, Kunchazan, Ming Karma, Dondaji Baruch, don't you to be shed a Mang Lam Dikil Chazan, go forward that day.
So if one talks or uses terminologies such as the method aspect, the accumulation of merit, or the paths based on conventional truths, or stages of the vast path, if one uses any of this terminology, one is referring to all practices other than the wisdom realizing emptiness.
That in Sherab Kebarchin Sum Gebani Sherab dance, that Sherab Kebarchin Sum Gebani is that Ben Sherab Kebarchin so Tombanilo to be Sherab. That bene delia sum sedi that the young robin Toby share Tombanil Toby share then some jungi share Gombe share up in the Unguras sum the Negi Tombanil to be maybe share Sumbo de Cangele, the share did the Canje Yishitan tap down Yishin Gasorim. Then tap down share me and the Carson share up yes. And then Sunum saw that Ishi Sun Yinane and Ishi saw it, Ishi Shiraptan, Ishi saw that. And the Kunzu Dembada, Dona Dembala, Dembelamine, Donam Dembala, Dembares. That's Sabatan, Jechi Lamine, that's Samuel Amirin by MBS, Samuel Amir Bares. Tombanilla to be Tujungi Shira, some Jungi Shira, Gomjungi Sheriffs, or Tersum Gomsungi Sheriffs, Roda.
Then so if we're looking at the first long sentence in this paragraph, that first part then is the divisions, or what is included in the method side, then what's included in the wisdom side starts with, whereas the generation of the three special types of wisdom constitute the wisdom aspect. There's three special types of wisdom refers to the wisdom of hearing, the wisdom of contemplation, and the wisdom of meditation. So these are three wisdoms, which are in particular in reference to the topic of emptiness, the wisdom of hearing in relation to emptiness, the wisdom of contemplation in relation to emptiness, and the wisdom of meditation in relation to emptiness. This refers to the three special types of wisdom. Moreover, the accumulation of wisdom is included in the wisdom aspect, as well as paths which are based on ultimate truths and the stages of the profound path. This is all included in the wisdom aspect.
That Sherab said it is Jubana Kotombanila, maybe Sherab or Inza Sherab. Ishi saw said it, Sanji Yuku Tribunane, so and the Chugu, no to be Kuchiguza, and the Ishi saw yes. That Dondam Dembala Dembare said, Korong is in the Yu Tombani, Yu Tombani, Yu Tombani, let me below Inza, Korong Yu, then Zindan Yu to Nadimba Tombani Inza, and Dondam Dembala Dembas, Yu Dondam Demba Tombani, Dene, Dizimpi Yu Inza, that you don't let Dembala Demba said. That's Samuel Amirimba, Samos and Saba said, Yu Sama, that tabna been samo dongban is dongban is saba dongban de sha di dongban yi jinda yu de shi big lameza samyo lamir ba sa shi du that mean du ta tanyi da na de sta gore.
So whereas, staying with the text, whereas the generation of the three special types of wisdom constitutes a wisdom aspect. So again, those are the three wisdoms in relation to emptiness arising from hearing, reflecting, and meditating. And then there's the accumulation of wisdom. So that's also comes from the realizations of wisdom. And that which is based on the paths based on ultimate truths. Ultimate truths refers to the object of emptiness. And then the third part that is included within the wisdom aspects are the stages of the profound path. So the stages of the profound path refers to emptiness again.
ngeba chimbo ke bar chawo side de da go gorim side da de shi ngaz lam yirim ba nyamlen ji be jimbo gorim dige ro da gorim dige an da da chi ma jung ba ne ani ji ya to ba ya ngo kompit tu me ba da ani jang nge ba side da nyamlen ji be de shasan jang nge ba ben de jimba da jimba nyamlen ji su rum nyamlen ma je so ba jin da ji ro wa se ba ji xia xia de ne me ba che shasan je ko jang nge ba 차산 디수 제고바 상요고바 토발라 인지미지 진배님네 수제님 수배님네 준대님 삼대님네 셰라님네 디 룩디 마제바이나 상요고바 토 투구메바 장해바레스 냠네 제기 디수 장해바레스 제가 장해고레스 차산 제고고레스 월다 대다교 고렘다 장해바세
Paragraph concludes with, therefore, you need to develop great certainty regarding their order and enumeration, as well as the fact that enlightenment cannot be attained by method and wisdom separately. So the first part of that sentence refers to the order and enumeration. So the order refers to the order of the various practices or stages of training of the path, or the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment. So this refers to the order. So in the word, just that. So this word order is also for stages, as in Lamrim, the graduated stages, the graduated order of the path to enlightenment. And then the second point, which was enumeration, which is that following generosity is ethics, following ethics is patience. So the purpose of these two, the order and enumeration, is so that one knows one needs to train in the correct order or sequence, and then the importance of the term enumeration, so that one knows that one cannot just skip something. If one finds one of the practices not so enticing, that it's not that one can skip it. One needs to train in all of these, in the correct sequence, and all of them without exception. So that is the purpose of knowing or gaining certainty regarding their order and the enumeration.
고름 ngeba sire다 간저 고름 나선다 베네 janshi simke bala 당보 잠바데 니지곰 디들 하산남다 곰 데네 janshi simke 데네 네 제게 간저 simke네 데네 파신주리야 라병도 네 나고 진배 파신냠네 데네 수전냠 파신냠네 데네 수배 파신 데네 전주님네 데네 삼대님네 데셰라님네 두시네 신바디 두시네 나 장딩해봐 장해봐서 디 냠네 제고레서 가서 고름해봐데 고름디 신바디네 당보디지 니바디 숨바디지 고름 두 스토고레서 모르다 고름세네 말이야 고름도.
So again, just so it's clear, this term here of order, so it's another way to translate the word for stages, as in Lamrim, it's a second word of a rim. So this is order or stages. So one needs to understand the correct sequence of training. So in the context of the perfections, one knows that one needs to start with generosity. And based on that, one trains in ethics. Based on that, one trains in patience, etc. So one knows the correct sequence of training, again, rather than starting where one is inclined to. because that will not lead to success. You need to train in the correct sequence.
자, 노신의 송에다 고름 내봐 알아요데 고림 시데 진배 냠내제데 진배 냠내 야보 지선 차이 제일 추진 냠내 제고래 베스다 삼론 리루아 데 진배 냠내 제비 내가서 추진 냠내 제 요래 말에스 진배 냠내 추진 냠내 냠도 제 요 말에 베스 세상 고림 라이 당보 직제 데 니바제 숨제로 오르와스 제자 당보 진배 냠내 제 데네 추진 냠내 데네 수배 냠내 제 오르와스 제자다 당보 진배 냠내 제비 갑로 추진 냠내다 수배 냠내 제고고 말에 베스 나지게 디와로시 데네 삼론 용식이와.
Yeah, it's important then to address a doubt that may well arise. So does this mean that if the first perfection is that of generosity and the second is that of ethics, one only trains in ethics when one has already trained well in generosity? Because it would sound like that there's a specific sequence where one needs to train consecutively. Only when generosity is well developed is one then ready to train in ethics, for example.
지나 전주선바 진비 냠는 전주선바 초람 당보기에 진비 냠는 제대네 추림다 쇠바데 고르바데 냠는 능고래 이나 조로식 조 진비 냠는데 제고미야 조디 진비 냠는 제대네 디젤에 조 추림 냠는 제다 두시네 조로식 벤 베제런 슈체로지 디 난고서라다 또 현지다네 미니 진비 냠는 제베 추림 냠는 제 쇠베 진비 냠는 제도 쇠바 냠는 고래마도 쇠바메나 아니 갈레트네 아주 봐 용고라 지사 쇠베님랑 고고래 지나 이내다 쪼로지 가르치고 진바도 쪼냠네 지고래 이제 당보 엔디체서 이제 디젤이한 추림냠네 제비 갈래 진바도 쇠바준데 차산냠네 지고디는 디는 쪼어디 추림냠네 지고 됐다 쪼어디를 자줘야 돼서 제산다 초람네야 졸람데서 초람 이내가서 대진변냠네 지도가 당보 쪼 지금 맞지 진바도 추림 쇠바 준비되게 냠네 지금 매비 계신 말 지금 오래 이나도 쪼로 진변냠네 되죠 오래서 지금 오래지래.
So for example, a new bodhisattva on the path of accumulation would train primarily or put the most effort into the first perfection, that of generosity. But it doesn't mean that they don't guard the ethics. It doesn't mean they don't yet need to train in patience. Without patience, the path will be difficult. So the bodhisattva would train in all the perfections, or several of the perfections, but their focus would be that on generosity. When that was well established, on that basis, so without forgetting generosity, on that basis, they would continue to train in all the perfections, but now the emphasis would shift to ethical restraint.
데네 엔지사 데네야 제 데네 용구로다 야 베네 전주샘 다데데 진바다 수르서바 준르 삼단 시랍세 동이 동방이 또베 신의 줍된 동방이 베 하동 줍제 도신의 진바 마송 진바데네 제스 수이데 야 먼저 가르스는 전주샘 마진이라 동방이 또바 동방이나 미베 신의 주야다 동방이나 미베 하동 주야 여러 말에서 근데 여러 왔을 때는 장해봐 가소래 고름해봐 자기미도 왔어 선배 삼능으로 빼내냐도 저좀 바로 지고 톱 년도 저준비 톱선에 배잠인지 고미도 전시선 바진이를 놓고라 동방이 또 차례 동방이를 미배신에 줍 차례 동방이를 하동 줍 차례 제가 니네게다 디체리아 아니 잠니지게 되는 전시선게 도시는 제상고 잠니지 동방이 마도니 가서 전시선 바진이를 동방이 또 배신에다 하동을 줍도 왔어 제가디 고림자다 장에서 책임도 왔으면 되게 니네게 삼투 용고로 와다 또 똑바로만 선데 도 심주시해봐 있나.
And it's good to have, for this doubt to be cleared, or this uncertainty to be cleared up, because otherwise one may think that before one enters the bodhisattva grounds, bodhisattva paths, the bodhisattva would not have trained in concentration and wisdom, for example. But this is not the case. For example, a bodhisattva who first went through the paths of individual liberation and became a foe destroyer, and only thereafter eventually came to the paths of the Mahayana, they would enter into the path of the Mahayana with a direct realization of emptiness already, and thereby, of course, the union of calm abiding and meditative insight. So it's not that a new bodhisattva will not have trained in practices such as concentration and wisdom.
Dineza, na jidane wa Tongbanyi topi shila sonde Tufia la niele, Janshu Sim Yamle Jada, Jimba Tsurin Sube Sunday Yamle Java, the Google Maro that did and the judging between top Sarne, then the Janshu Sim Jandela, Cochanshu Magin, Tombayin, maybe she had how to Tsarwa, Jidane Google Mare. That did the Shebadi, that did the Locorim Sunda, the Carson was in Tambo and about Tashin Lamla Shunyam Jene, Yandu, judgment by one member, Tambo Nine, Lam Yamle, the Janjus Tabachimbe, Lam Yamle, Janju Sem Bulaki, two Shinako, Ringi, Janju Semba, Ringi, Tabachimbe, Ringi, Gaza Telia, Yamling Rimba to say, and Jidan to Sumore.
So we should understand that this is a presentation for those of definite Mahayana lineage whose first path that is attained is the path of the Mahayana, and therefore would not have entered the Theravadan paths. So for such a practitioner, it is not required for them to have trained completely in the union of calm abiding meditative insight, nor the wisdom realizing emptiness.
Janju Sim Tavachimbe Lam Yamlin Jin, the Tombanyu Doya, and Janju Sim Jay, Niela Suki, Lamna, Janju Sim Mang Chawagi, Janju Sim Magin, and the Tony Doru, Regis, Tony Dores, Janju Sim one put two borders in then Delia and the watch Janju Sim Jay, DJ, Tony Tobayungo, Mado, Mang Janju Sim Mangche, Janju Sim Magin, and the Tony Doru, Regis.
Moreover, of the vast majority of bodhisattvas of, again, definite Mahayana lineage, so their first path is a path of the Mahayana, the vast majority will enter into the Mahayana, Mahayana path of accumulation, already with a realization of emptiness. Some, though, won't, those who are not so inclined to the wisdom side, are more inclined to the method side, they would not have a realization of emptiness prior to the attainment of the Mahayana path of accumulation, but the vast majority of new bodhisattvas will have a realization of emptiness.
감성 코에 동안에 저 고고도 세비게 다 감성 코를 죄제야 상이 살아 거기 세비게 삼다도 갑라 제가 감성 코에 동안에 저 투부디에 투문도 세야 되나 뭐 삼당 고라 투구에나 네야 거기 투구메나 거 투구메나네 거에 메나다 거 투야고요 말와 제가 되네 코와디 가르치는 코고도 선데 심주제야 되가라 제가 레다 녀모 온 코도 제산데 코코 유조디 레다님이 조디야 딘지 마릭바드레 샤세 제바치 통고를 와다 제산 담보 동아데바 동아셔디니 군주셰바 디규디 하고 와제 제산 규군주도 하고 와제데 딘지 마릭발기데 다 딘지 마릭바데 빵 투구 뒤에 민도 딘지 마릭바데 원에 총 롱문에 덴바 진마나제 다가 레다 마레세 제바제는 데데 디빵 투구여나 딘진디 용사데 자와데다 딘진데를 용거보다 딘진디 매바서 투구여나 then call it to go. Dinzi the members to men, didn't you remember so the devil getting a email, just not to go marva. Didn't do Chebachi, Dinzin data call it, yeah, the Carson laid on your mobile in the key. The Gudian so Dinzi Reshas. That Dinzi upon to go to Minu Shimju, just a Demba Zimbati, you can sing to send Kala Mato Rangung when you drew but sing to us. The Zimbana Shinji that do a Mindu Sitin Joe or Chebachi and got some Chilia. 都是呢，电线这话就他呢，心就些呢，但有的那话的真把拿心去，当然明年把东把你通了的，电线的落线把多用，电线落线多用，就是那电线的落线个多用，我这的第一个是东把你多差的话的，东把你多差的电线落线把多用的，但电线的得了年不多，的没有是突不多，就是那考完了这突不多，头也给多是的，现在什么叫他们就给考完了呀？ 考这些呀，上一次了，规矩这边个，但是现在呢，都是呢，拉萨南道都是改进的呢。你现在什么叫他们就上有个包头把几个这边讲学什么也用过来着嘞。
So why is it said that the vast majority of bodhisattvas already have a realization of emptiness prior to their entering the path of accumulation? Well, bodhicitta, it's the generation of uncontrived bodhicitta is the entry point into the Mahayana path of accumulation. And the mind of bodhicitta, or bodhicitta itself, has two components. It is the determination to lead all sentient beings to liberation from suffering. And the second component, in order to do that, the practitioner, must become a Buddha. So there are these two components which are required for bodhicitta, and bodhicitta is required to enter into the path of accumulation. So in order to generate both of these components of the mind of bodhicitta, the practitioner will have meditated extensively on the topics included in the Four Noble Truths, and from there to generate love and compassion. So this bodhisattva would have reflected deeply on the sufferings of samsara, and following the reflection on the sufferings of samsara would have reflected on the origins of those sufferings, and would have come to recognize that it remains bound in samsara due to contaminated karma accumulated with our afflictions, and that those afflictions have a root cause of true grasping or self-grasping. And the bodhisattva would have then meditated to come to recognize whether true grasping or self-grasping, whether this is a mind in accordance with reality or not, and would have investigated to see if it can be eradicated or not. So this practitioner, who's not yet a bodhisattva, who's been reflecting deeply on suffering and its origins, is now reflecting on, do phenomena exist in the way that they appear? Does the self and every other phenomenon exist in the way that it appears to my mind? And then the practitioner comes to recognize that the self is empty of true existence. This consciousness that believes the self to exist truly or inherently or naturally, that consciousness is not in accordance with reality. It is an ignorance. So here the bodhisattvas come to recognize that the very root of our suffering is an ignorance. It is not in accordance with reality. And they've come to an understanding of emptiness. This then gives them the confidence liberation is possible. Moreover, the love and compassion they may have already generated, this now they recognize. This love, the wish, may all beings be happy, and the compassion, may they all be freed of suffering. These are whilst very powerful, are still only aspirations. And this practitioner then can generate the wholehearted resolve or the altruistic attitude that says, it's my responsibility to ensure that all beings attain a state of lasting happiness. In other words, the fulfillment of their practitioner's aspiration of love, and that all beings gain freedom from suffering. In other words, the fulfillment of the practitioner's aspiration of compassion. Recognizing they can do this, they can generate the wholehearted resolve. And thereby, they are now required just that final step to generate bodhicitta. In order to actually be able to lead all beings to liberation, I have to become a most skilled of guides, a Buddha. And this way, they generate bodhicitta. So this is why the generation of bodhicitta is mostly preceded by a realization of emptiness.
장슈 주발라 내가 좀 개발 저와서 탑단 실에 야메저와 지사다 동보 고림다 장에 바당 탑단 실업서 탑시에 야메저와 야자와이나 탑장장 검제 동방이 또 비시라 마고 바이나 아니 잔주 두고 산주고 막 톱투고 말해서 지나야 잔주 셈 냠네 마체바 잔주 셈 이심비 토네 안진바도 수정로 소발로 소바 냠네 마체바이네 동방이 지부 검제베등이 네 가소리 산주고 막 톱투고 말해서 자 탑시 야자와서 탑시 야자와라네 동방이 야자 검션 잔주 셈 이심비 진바도 수정 소바디게 냠네 마체바이네 탑시 직검 직마가 먹으면 차거와 얘네 아직 동방이 먹으면 제 진바도 전주 16군의 진바도 수림로서 바냠나 같이 제베네 초직 냠는 지금마다 셰럽기 쳐도 냠는 지금 말 지사 딘 제베는 탑시 야자와 차로 야자와서 직 냠는 직 지고 말해서 지사 야자와 있나 네 산요고 번 주토 자주 투 말해서 지사 산요고 번 주발라 니가 냠는 탑시 송제신 냠는 거래서 지사 자주 미주바인자 내가 침보 개발 자오 저 탑시 송지 냠는 제고 바디 내가 템버자 하고 와제 안디 냠는 제고 거래서 개발 자오 와서 됐습니다.
Lama Tsongkhapa concludes the paragraph with, as well as the fact that enlightenment cannot be attained by means of method and wisdom separately. So from what was presented above in this paragraph, we can see that the entirety of the Bodhisattva practices are included in method and wisdom aspects. And therefore, one cannot attain the goal of the Bodhisattva Buddhahood by only engaging in the side of method or the side of wisdom. That would be trying to do so separately. One needs to engage in both of them. If one is drawn towards cultivating the wisdom realizing emptiness and neglects the method side, one will not achieve Buddhahood. If one is drawn to the method side but is not inclined towards the wisdom side at all, one will not achieve Buddhahood. Therefore, wisdom and method need to be cultivated, both need to be cultivated. They cannot be separated.
Dene di anje da di chavare, jisangan jogi janshu sem jam tinje kom meni kasa kiwu chumu da tumo lam yirenba, tinge lam yirenba. Dene jam ninje, nene janshu sem isimbe jone pajun juge nyamle je da di rinba di bardo da nyamle rinba da di dusresena ma shu sare. Jisan de shu sawaza dele ya dedar tumo wege 대단 투모의 규장내에서 제산디 남냠링 림바티를 투모의 남이림 바시고다 제산디다 되는마 대달 투모를 투모람 가서 대달 남 투모의 규장내 내발 나라 주괴데 데라 슈네 뉴르도 초년 조버 규리치로 소래
What we've looked at thus far, not just this weekend but previous weekends, is to see that the way to become a bodhisattva is to start developing one's qualities by engaging in the trainings which are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity. And as one develops the strength and focus of mind, one then engages in the trainings that are shared with the practitioner of intermediate capacity. Having trained well in these two, one's focus then can shift into the trainings that are unique to a practitioner of great capacity. And then this weekend we've looked at the sequence of trainings for the bodhisattva, the 6 perfections. So all of this is called the common path. Now Lama Tsongkhapa continues, having thus trained your mind stream by means of the common paths, you must definitely enter the mantrayana, for once you have entered it, you will quickly complete the 2 accumulations.
데네자다 데네게 투모의 남유 규장 사회 체라 데네게 냠는 전에 데네게 로장 회체라 안 가르쳐 왔으네 뇌바도 나라 죽고서 인지 민지 다 나냐면 제호를 해서 우리 뇌바도 나라 죽고 돼서
Having trained in the basis of the common paths, then, and the specific emphatic word, you must definitely enter. So this shows that it's not optional, but one has to train in the common paths, and then one has to enter into the Mantrayana.
Ever don't all and you go, you didn't get a lamna, Chizan to Yamlin Jedi, Sanjo go on to be Shiduruba. Chizan Sanjo go on to be Chidinza, Della Shuna, Nurdu, Sonia, Zoba, Cuviches. Chizan, now in Yamlin Chebana, Della Dene, Sanji, Soedi, and it goes out to waters. Nurdu Sonia, Sanjo go on, Yaw to Waters. Chizan to go ahead, me in Yamlin Jedi. Sanji go on to be Chidure. Chizan Sanjo go on to be Chidinza, Sanjo go on to go out to go in the Chizan again, Yamlin do Shebe, Chizan saw the God to go, Senami got to saw the Yoga Sa to go, Yoga Sa to go in the Sanjo go on to go out to go, Ajere.
And so what is the reason why one must enter into the Mantrayana? Well, the practitioner, as a bodhisattva, has as their goal to help all beings gain freedom from suffering. And to do so, they must become a Buddha. Wanting to benefit beings as quickly as possible, the bodhisattva needs to engage in the quickest of paths, and that is the path of the Mantrayana. Because through the Mantrayana, one accrues the two accumulations of method and wisdom much more quickly.
Da doigi kapso dus nyamlen che sewe da nga ge nyamlen che bayina jizna da sanjo ko bande nyur thugure se di ka se cho sae gi samlo ta ye de samlo de pe ma se sheba di ge lo di pe sa ba nyu wa che go sa ba da de nga zo nga dang de ka so she gi che bayina de ka so she ba ji samlo ta da sheba di ge ra ba cha go dene nga ka so nyamlen che sheba di ge pa sheba char cha go jizna sheba cha wa di ge nyamlen che go de ani cho de Geshe Thubten Rabten,
So why is it that after training in Sutra one needs to engage in Tantra? The reason being given is that one accumulates or accrues the two accumulations much more quickly. So why is it that one accrues the two accumulations so much more quickly? This is because the consciousness with which one trains in the sutra paths is much coarser than the consciousness that one develops when actually engaging in tantric training. So in the tantric paths, your wisdom, your consciousnesses become much sharper, much more profound, much deeper than previously when one was successfully training in the sutra paths. This is why one can accumulate merit and wisdom so much more quickly, because of the development of the realizing consciousness.
And it's
this part of Tantra is so much quicker that in the life when one engages in tantric practice, in that very life, one can even attain full and complete enlightenment. And this comes about independence on the quality of the foundational training, and it comes by so quickly because of the sharpness or the profundity of the consciousness utilized in Tantra.
Galde dezamle mijobam ne rignu chunwes galde dezamle mijobam rignu chunwe mijona lamrim dini chi yeso tonwa zam jaos.
Lama Tsongkhapa continues, if you cannot manage more than the path of the perfections, or owing to having weak potential, you do not want to, you should just work on developing these very stages of the path further.
Galde dezamle mijona suda denegi 나게 냠는 제투 매바다 람림기 냠는 제투데 나게 냠는 제투 매바지 진짜 제투 매바 소수기 누가 마다와네 미줘봐서 걸 미줘봐 아니 나 릭뉴 추에세 데네게다 아 지게 디용으로 하다가 냠는 제알에 되발 마중와나 데네게다 되어 매바로 용으로 데네 릭뉴 추와라서 봐 이나 아니 그 마저나스네 제게 되어 그 매바 아다디 야고 말했어야 돼 데네 용으로 하다 어디니 소수게 되어 매바나 아니 가르쳐고랬으네 람림 디니 지기에서 또 하스 잠자고지 람림 곰제 안에야도 람림도 곰제 아직 과자체 삼로 망치 균링스한데 람림도 곰네티고 레저다 나 마음바나 되네 곰베게 마음바나 고브라기로 와서다.
So the meaning is that for either who lack the capacity to engage in tantric practice or lack the wish to do so, then they should focus on the sutra trainings, focus on developing those qualities, because such a practitioner in lives to come will meet the tantric teachings once again, and at that point will have created the capacity or the wish to engage with them.
그래서 가서 그랬으네. 미드나 시대변화 중에 제라마와당 되게 바로 시나 좀나마와 되는 시나 나 건조기다 태바침비게 가 냠내네 힐링이 말와 지산되는 상 코로조미 람림 냠낸데다 그 ben에 전주 제라마와다 되네기 되게 바라서 봐 전주심 냠내 지간이마나 되네기 람림 냠내 태바침 람림 냠내지마도 나게디 마신 제호마디 디바이 체계소다 게바다 되스게처 당제 균리스 냠내 제호를 해서 주로하다. 미드나스의 고메 한직시로 하다.
So what we have translated as, if you cannot manage more than the path of the perfections, so a way to understand that would be, or more literal way would be, if you do not want to do anything other than the perfections, or as I expressed it earlier, you do not you have a wish to engage in Tantra, who we could think would be included there would be those of the philosophical tenets of the Vaibhashika and Tsongkhapa. So they don't accept the Mahayana, and therefore they don't accept the tantric practices or the tantric teachings. So they would be such who have no wish to engage in Tantra. So again, these would be those of the philosophical schools of the Vaibhashika and Tsongkhapa, not accepting the Mahayana. They don't accept Tantrayana, and therefore they would have no wish to, or as it's translated, they could not manage more than the path of the perfections.
그래서 대지 응아래 개발도 제고래 세디 지난디니게 람람니 전에 디니게 랑아 냠는 지엘레 뉴버여와 쪼바 쪼바스 뉴버여바다 안 될이야 냠는 지게 되바 거기 여한조다 개발도 제고래 세디고 거다 되네 거기면은 인지미 제고 말해야지.
So therefore, when we read here that you must definitely enter the Mantrayana, this is said for those who have both the capacity and the wish to do so. If there are others who either lack the capacity or have the capacity but lack the wish, then for them that's fine. They stay with the sutra paths.
다들 개발 제고래에서 송에도 술로 송고라선다 체두제비 두자 되게 제게 되바유 되게 듬바여바다 니버 여행 가사 될 송고다 개발 제고래서다 람림 송에게 람림이 체두제비 두자디 고 당보니 기부 충모다 투모람 이르바티 되네 징게람 이르바티 되네 기부 챔비람 이 동항이 람이 두이 람 이르바 차사마티 되네 나게 냠는 제주 타라 나게 냠는 제주 제데 두신의 산조고반 치에게 체두제비 두자 될 송고를 제가 되네자 람림 고랑의 체두제비 두자 송에도 제르미제 제사 될 람른다 제르미제 이게다 람림 체두제비 두자 될라 안 고랑족이 뉴바다 되네게 리여바인자 될야데 인지멘디다 개투모와 람규샤의 세위 제라 인지미 나을 냠네 제고래서 중고래.
Lama Tsongkhapa here is saying that you must definitely enter When Lama Tsongkhapa is saying that you must definitely enter the Mahayana, he's addressing specifically those who have trained well in the trainings of a practitioner of initial capacity, and built on that have trained well in the trainings of a practitioner of intermediate capacity, and then as a qualified practitioner have entered into the trainings of a practitioner of great capacity, and now having the strong determination to become a Buddha for the sake of others. You who are such a person and who has the capacity and wish to do so, you must engage in mantrayana.
어디 네버 제가서 돼 람림이 호란치 제베냐면 지한들라제 디 오델이야 아니 미조바다 아니 미조나 아니 람림 개발진에 람림 community에서 돼 지단에다 쓰고도 지단에.
And then we see in the next sentence that Lama Tsongkhapa says, but for those of you who either lack the capacity or the wish, that's okay. Just stay with the sutra presentation of the Lamrim.
다 되네게 당가는 냠는 제와서 다 당가로 주나니 사당가가 냠는 제바이나 다 가르쳐 버렸으네. 질 태과 탐제나 개벌도 안에 nencher 송배 아니 신인 딘수 원래 개벌도 파 유화식 자스.
Then continuing, when engaging in the mantrayana, since proper reliance on a spiritual teacher is given great emphasis in all the vehicles generally, and particularly in secret mantra, you should make it even more preeminent than before.
대사당가를 주행하게 냠는 제바는 지당능아 주길 람 냠는 제바라 태바 탐지에서 당아서 태바 침배 람 냠는 제반 태바 충회 람 냠는 좀 받치디 기위신 진수디 나뭐 저기 기위신 진수디 냠는 제 야부 땡고 고르와 대가제 기위신 야부시 안델 땡제 롭셔제 고르와 아니 라버도 당아 기시도 다 딜레자네 캬바도 나게 냠는 지리가블야 기위신 될야 nenchebe shiwuji gechimuje gewishin dengo badi nganalia be gechimbu nencher sungbas be gechimbu shiwuji sunggo rejire.
As we have already seen in the presentation, relying on a spiritual teacher is of utmost importance. Really, from the outset of applying oneself vigorously in the Dharma, training in the engaging in the practices that are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity, right from that point throughout, relying on the manner in which one relies on one's spiritual teacher is of great importance. But in the context of secret mantra, then it is of even greater importance, more preeminent than before.
원래 개발도 파파시자. 세대 원세대 당한적이 다 뒤에가서 때마다 람림 거시에게 신인진수 내래 개발도 파파지네. 이게 채와도 ben에 진의 땡고고리에서 신인진수 원래에서 원 람림 거시 신인진수 송바 될래. 근데 개발도 파 될래. 개발도 파파지네. 근데 제 기비신 땡고고리에서 교화시자세.
Lama Tsongkhapa states this explicitly. And particularly in secret mantra, you should make it even more preeminent than before. Than before, referring to when one was training in the sutra practices in accordance with the beings of three different scopes.
나 되네 유제 남다네 중외 왕기 유민벌의 제네 대두소 토비 담치당 안나 돈바 소대 제대 송스.
And Lama Tsongkhapa continues, then, having ripened your mind stream by means of an empowerment that comes from a pure class of Tantra, guard the commitments and vows you obtained at that time, even at the cost of your life.
되네게 지사 다 나게 냠는지도 당보 가르치고 왔으니 되네 지게 왕슈고래서 유디 남다네 중외 왕기 유민벌제스네 마 유난 마 손집에 왕기 냠네 림바 마 손집에 되네게 된 남다스도 마노와 마초바 송샤바 데네지를 마 냠수 규제 냠수 랭고 왕슈고 마도 야지 되세 다다 매바 노트 송샤교디 데네 멤버체 규디나 규레 다 규데 몽부어와 다 데네게 규나네 다지 고마노와 마초바 다다 임베 규디 넘버 다바지 토네 바왕 왕의 슈탄의 송여 디니게 왕슈제 아니 규민바제에서 규민바제고래 해서 규민바제다 규민바제 왕슈네 왕슈디 규민바라되다 베나즈 신도 민바라그로와 신도 민바라네 신도 맞으서 사기 다다레의 신도 민바세오라 다당번에 그 최면의 신도 민요 말에 지난 산나超过산 신부요 말와 대고 뒤수 체 다다 렘바지 살로에 뒤수리데 민바산에 되는 다다로 신부로 열어와 제가 디나신 규민바시데 왕마슈바제 아 냠내지 왕슈 아 냠내지 얘기 규디 다다 체거 말에 냠내 체거 말 제가다 왕슈고 렌지미지 왕슈제 왕슈여데다 아 냠내지 얘기 규민바레스다 왕 냠내시 규디 다다 체거래지 규민바지 오래스니 이제네 민바지 되네 왕슈 규 민발지네 되네 디두서特别 담치당 네 도마티게 야고 송고르시 왕슈갑수다 왕기 슈비 담치 송야다 대왕슈비게 dom바송야 딩나게 dom바송야 저러봐 대소 소다 되대 송지데 나 소래간 제체와진 송고고래 예제리다 규남다시네 베지 가시나는 노교다 디교라 여러와데 규남다스 규레 몽고르와 규 베지 가시 규데 규나래야 다다지 여바치데 지난 가시야 다다 메디킨 디니가 안 디니가 있네 다다지 쉬네 네 다다 체겨 말마 이제 왕나다다 데빈 규레데 규 베지다 가시 다다 멤버 규 데스 여러와다 규슝 베지 여러와다 디나데 손셰게네 다다티고 말에 왕슈다데 다다차금 가지 유남바 다바 지디 유디 마노와 아니지게 라마 첸덴지기 마 상기에다 디게 아니지마 고모 루루라 소바다 디니게 반도네 유 마노와 마투바 바 손셰베 유 델레데네 아니 왕슈고레 해세지
Looking at the sentence then having ripened your mind stream by means of an empowerment that comes from a pure class of Tantra. So I've mentioned it as a translator a few times and changed this word on the previous page, this translation of the word pure. Whilst it's not incorrect to translate it as pure, it's more often should be translated as correct, correct or perfect even. So here the meaning of pure, we should rather understand to be, both pure and correct. So what the meaning is, when one receives an initiation, the teacher should give it in a way that is correct. There is no error in what they're giving, because there may well be a mistake in the text. So the text that the Lama uses should be free of error. So the correct is better rather than pure. Moreover, the teacher giving the initiation should have be holding this unbroken lineage going all the way back to Vajradada through Nagarjuna and so forth. So the lineage should be, there we probably say pure. The lineage would be pure in the sense of being unbroken. So this is the meaning of a pure class of Tantra, so that one's process of entering into tantric practice isn't corrupted either by a mistake in the ritual because there's an error in the text, or because the person giving the lineage doesn't actually hold that, isn't part of that lineage. It's not an unbroken lineage anymore. And then it concludes with guard the commitments and vows you obtained at the time, even at the cost of your life.
민바스네 냠렌제기 따다 뉘 따다 차 따다 告诉的很，变成别了嘛，星座来嘛，星座罗现在看了侧面的看了我这个真的侧面的那明白这个的呢，星座了嘛是当波的个山的差不星座嘛是吧，主要车上要嘛是吧，明白是的可谁就是到内容的明白是有了，的那些的。那不，我个往嘛学呗呢，我年龄前边呢，往学我年龄前个大菜个嘛，女的大菜个嘛，但往学用对往学呢，的呢我年龄前个具体明白的说的。你知道他们这东北这个怕说到对的送过回来，说来咋吃完就送过回来去。
So in the same sentence, then the beginning of it, then having ripened your mind stream. So the process of entering into Tantra requires receiving an initiation, and that process needs to be done correctly, or we have this word here, pure, needs to be done correctly. If not, one's mind stream won't be ripened, and therefore one won't yet be suitable to enter into tantric practice. So this is why the process needs to be done correctly, because otherwise one's mind won't ripen. And ripen we understand in the same way as a seed planted when coming together with all the right conditions, that seed ripens into a sprout. So similarly, part of the indispensable conditions required for one to enter one's continuum to be ripened is that the process needs to be correct or unmistaken. And then the sentence ends with, guard the commitments and vows you obtained at the time, even at the cost of your life. So this expression, even at the cost of your life, we should understand in the same way as described last night. Just like at all times we are subconsciously aware that we need to guard our life, protect our life, so too we should ensure we do not harm or break our vows at all. So just like we ensure we don't die, we ensure we do not break our vows. So that's the way to understand this expression, guard them even at the cost of your life.
개발도 사 자동포나 라르랑도 양 유추세대 연den계가외 네 먹어버자스 제스
Lama Tsongkhapa continues, especially if a root downfall occurs, even if you take them again, this will damage your mind stream and it will become difficult to develop excellent qualities. Therefore, make every effort not to become tainted by one.
지상당하기 돈바슈시에 안제지 양 돈바다 가야지 자동적 중배이나야 양결 돈바라 요레스 라도 요레스 이내야 지게 당번에 안데 지게 가스레 돈바랑 된마 지게 마슈 자동포네 녀바 침보사르와 안디 양게 슈데 진짜 규추지 바세데 데주 나중에 나게 뭐지 돈바스에데 안데 거 가서 디메바스에서 와다 자동포에 추지 바스 이나 진짜 추지는 연된 개발이야 안돼 양자 깔카 차고레스 지상 깔카 와서 연된 개가 와서 당번에 디 만년 받아 삽설체 어디 계침벌에 해서지 송으로.
So the meaning then is as stated, especially if a root downfall occurs, even if you take them again. So in other words, as we've just heard in the previous sentence, when we receive the vows, we should keep them well and try not to break them or let them degenerate. And whilst if that were to occur, one can receive the vows again. The quality of the vows, because of having broken a vow, the impediment on your continuum will make it difficult for you to develop good qualities in the same way as if you had never committed a downfall.
다지네 야라게 동안남 얘기하고 봐 제신 괴낭 진민년 그래서 진민년 버 미쪽 버네 샤담기 다버자오스
Lama Tsongkhapa continues, also do your best to avoid becoming tainted even by a secondary infraction, though if you do not be indifferent about it, but purify it through confession and restraint.
제자다 자동 멤버 연락이 동화디 어디 충충 레슨에 고 남매 담샤 바체 안디 시사 마고 바체 바야고 송고 그래서 그시 고여 바 중바이나 안데 어디 자마샤 바체 남상 샤돔지네 다 바체 디바 다 바체 그래서 송도.
Yeah, Lama Tsongkhapa is stating clearly, if you commit not a rude downfall, but a less severe infraction, a more minor infraction, don't be dismissive. Think, that's life, doesn't really matter. Don't have such an approach. Rather, immediately apply yourself with vigor to purify it.
다되네 인자다 상하기 냠네 제발라 담보 왕슈고레스 왕슈 체비체리아 안에 가서 왕디 값소 남체다 돈바디 야보 송고레스 송고레 되네 자다 그시 that yanlage tungwa de pho wa ina lamsa an de ya shakdom chin de sha ho re se da don da di sungor da.
To enter into what we've seen here is to enter into the mantrayana. One needs to receive an initiation, and at that time one will receive vows and samayas. These one needs to keep well, but should one commit a downfall or infraction, this needs to be purified.
데네사 유디 오마다나 천제다 고마다나 기름게 나주 강로 시라티 데 데네 유디 오마다나 천메게 나주당 고마다나 조름게 나주도 나주 강로라 라바자오스.
Lama Tsongkhapa then continues. Also, be guided as appropriate in the yoga with signs in accordance with the lower classes of Tantra, or in the yoga of the generation stage in accordance with the highest class of Tantra. Then, based on that, train as appropriate in the yoga without signs in accordance with the low classes of Tantra, or in the yoga of the completion stage according to the highest class of Tantra.
that 지난 유인하게 냠는 제바들 유디 오마다 고마세지 니 당한 저기 고마 유디 오마다 고마세 니 용거래 지난다 유디 오마데라 오마다나스도 유디 오마이가서 냠는 제들라 천지게 나주다 천미게 나주어서 니 용거래 난 유디 고마세들라 네제 게림나 조림세 냠는 제 니용거래 제자면이 유디 오마리아 게림나 조림세 냠는 기시고 말에 대민 게림나 게림이 찹들라 천지게 나주어서 그래. 조름이 찹들라 체미게 나주어서 있다고 그래. 제가 디네산 유디 오마다 나서도 유디 오마게 냠는 지긴지나 당보 천지게 나주게 냠는 지고래. 천지게 나주게 냠는 약보 중사회 제라 다 체미게 나주게 냠는 지고래서 그러다니. 제가 유디 오마다나 당보 천지게 당했을 때 천지게 냠는 지고래. 숨멸 다 되지서 되죠.
The meaning as stated here then is that if we divide the classes of Tantra into two, there are the lower classes and the highest class of Tantra. The lower classes have two divisions of practice, a first and then a second, and the highest class of Tantra has also two divisions, one that is done first and one that is done second. So in the lower classes of Tantra, one first starts with the yoga with signs, and based on having trained well in that, one moves to the yoga without signs. And in the highest class of Tantra, then one starts with the generation stage, and when well trained in that, one engages in the completion stage.
유디 오마 세디다 다 유디 나네 제위 규다 제규 주규 나주 규 세디게라 디숨데라다 유디 오마시 고래 다 나줄라메 규 세디 유디 고마시 고래.
The lower classes of Tantra are threefold, and the highest class of Tantra is just one. So the three lower classes of Tantra are those of action, performance, and yoga. And then the highest class of Tantra is called highest yoga Tantra. So again, the three of the lower classes are action, performance, and yoga. And highest yoga Tantra is the higher class.
지산다 제규던 주규 나주규 냠는 제게는 당보 네 왕슈 선에 되네 담치 도마디 야보송 되네 다 찬지 당보 찬지기 나주기서 냠는 제 다 찬지 나주 냠는 야보지어서도 되네 찬미기 나주어서 냠는 제 오래지래.
So the lower classes, one first receives initiation. So lower classes of action, performance, and yoga, one receives initiation, and with that, one receives vows and samayas, and then one engages in the yoga with signs.
지산다 규대 고마다나 기름게 나주 강로라 치에서 규대 고마데 다 라면 나주 라면 냠는 제게 있는 당보 기름식 나주 냠는 제 오래서.
And in highest yoga tantra, one again receives initiation, and with that, vows and samayas, and then engages in the generation stage.
단 대때네 시도 되지 규대 오마들라 이나 제규대 주게 나주 규대라 참매게 나주 찬지게 나주 냠는 제네디 야보 템보 주바이나 되네 어디 원에다 참매게 나주다 냠는 제 오래서. 단 규대 오고마 나네 제나주 레미규 냠는 제게 지나 당보 기름기 냠는 야고 제디 야고 중서데 제리아나 고마 조름기 나주 냠슬랑 냠는 제 오래서.
And the final sentence in the paragraph, then based on that. So in other words, having received the initiation and been guarding one's vows and samayas well, and having trained in either the yoga with signs or the generation stage, then one is ready to engage in the second level of training. So then based on that, train as appropriate in the yoga without signs, in accordance with the lower classes of Tantra, or in the yoga of the completion stage, according to the highest class of Tantra.
안 대답이 남기 남자게 류 람른le 송데스 람린 기간 대신도 치바 이노스.
And this outline concludes with, such is the structure of the presentation of the path set forth in Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, and the Lamrim guides students in the same way.
지난다 조지기 장쇼 람른 송요도 지난보 안에 기부 총무다 투모 람리른바 드니 기부 진다 투모 람리른바 드네 안에 기부 침배 람리른바 신념nen체 디념래 야고 중서베 제라 안에 디제라 안에 가르쳐서는 드네 왕나게 나 가서 왕슈 드네 나게 왕슈 드네 넘치다 담바디 야보 송 드네 안에 규디 오면 냠는 시간이나 안에 천지기 냠는체 되는 참백 냠는체 오래 되는 규디 고매게 냠는체가 지나 당뭐 기름 냠는체 되는 제로 조그라 냠는체 오래서 되는 냠는체 림바디 제 그스 조지게 람런 나래도 송요래서 제가 람런 나 송바인자 디나시다 람림 디가 소이냐자 디나신 지부지게 람런 송바나 지부지게 하신 두 치고에서 오다 람림이야 대신에 치바이 노스 대가스네 장주 람림 첨보디 장주 람런기 마 공부 제바치네 마 장주 람르 숨바 제르 당고 람르는 책유유지 돈다 제바치 책유유 차요라 제자데 디 돈다디 마 돈다 시자시 책디 망을 당진 제제 가서레 디제르 마치게 제제 람르 두수 송난 거라 디자 람르 디야 디 디신도 세데 장주 람르네 티바나 신제네 다가랑 송구 치고여래 제레.
In Lama Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, he guides beings to first train in the practices that are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity. And building on that skill, one engages in the training shared with the practitioner of intermediate capacity. Thereafter, one is ready to engage in the trainings that are unique to a practitioner of greatest capacity. Having trained well then in those common paths, one then engages into the uncommon paths of secret mantra, whereby one first receives initiation, and then with initiation, vows and samayas, which one keeps well, and whilst doing so, one engages, if it's a practice of the lower classes of Tantra, in yoga with signs, and when that's completed, the yoga without signs. Or if one is practicing highest yoga Tantra, then one, whilst guarding one's vows and samayas, engages in the generation stage, and in dependence on that being properly practiced, the completion stage. So this is what set out in Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, and Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrim texts follow that exact same sequence. Therefore, we can have, as the students, we can have confidence that Lama Tsongkhapa is following the presentation of Lama Atisha. He's merely presenting it in greater detail, but the sequence is identical.
기부 총다 투모 람지네 바 로장 데네 징기람 로장 데네 기부 침베 람지네 바 로장 베네 잠니지 곰 전주 셈게 알아서 바다 데네게 안 전주 셈베 돈바송 네 전주 셈베 돈바송네 전주 셈베게 쥐발라 랍스 랍고 데네데 랍고 그래 세나 다 데네게 랍세벨 야고 냠네 제세베 제라 데네 ngawe 냠네 제고 그래스 다 ngawe 냠네 제 당보 제 당보 원 귀리 안데 저게 남다진도 만노와 진이파 안데 라미진 진의 왕슈고 왕슈 데네 왕슈 산의 왕이 값서 켈린비게 남제도 돈바데 야고 송고레스 데 송고레 제당아 값서 냠는 제데 가요레스네 비디오 오메게 값서 냠는 제바이나 산지게 나주세 당보 냠는 제 디게를 참매게 나주세 냠는 제 호레스 데네 비디오 고마로 셰베나 데네 디 값서 당보 니카사 당보 깨림이 냠는 제 데네 조르미스 냠는 제 호레스 또 간실에 두신 도당아 니게 냠는 제 당이 림바로스는 두신당 왜 고신 뜻은 마진 파림바스만 방림데네들이 세대가다 디발 쉬사래.
So what we've looked at then is that the foundation of one's training is to rely on the spiritual teacher, and through relying on the spiritual teacher, one engages in the practices which are shared with a practitioner of initial capacity. Building on that, the practices of intermediate capacity, and then one comes to the practices of great capacity. Then, as we've seen here this weekend, when one generates bodhicitta, one engages in the ritual of aspiring bodhicitta together with the unique Mahayana refuge, reflects on the trainings of the precepts of aspiring bodhicitta, reflects on the benefits of the practices of the bodhisattva, then takes the bodhisattva vows and engages in the practices of the bodhisattva. In particular, those of the perfections of concentration and wisdom. When one has trained well in all of this, then it's imperative that one enters into the trainings of mantrayana. And there, the process, as we've had briefly outlined, is that the student now, having trained their mind well, receives initiation, and guards the vows and samayas received at initiation, guards them well. And if it's a practice of the lower tantras, engages first in the yoga with signs and later the yoga without signs. Or if it is a highest yoga tantra initiation that is now being practiced, or a deity that's been practiced, then they first engage in the generation stage, and when that's been well trained in, completion stage. So this then is the process, the entire process in which to train in order to attain Buddhahood.
결혼하고 냠내진의 디기에서 왕체디 냠내지에 왕체 뛰고 라마즈는 왕치 쉬고 당 아주 변에 뒤로와데 가서래 되는 데 미니 칼라 종서디 민 송가치면 민케네 곧 지게 녀고로 와디나 시로와디 디 미션다데 디 송가디 민디 마녀바이나 민디 베지다는 녀라 몽골링으로와 디나시 제사 나게 냠는 제발이야 아니 라마슬부시 라미기 결혼 냠는 제네 디그리에 세트 결혼때 왕실 말씀 받니 코바 가서래 야 콜레 나와도시 두제고래 제자 되네기 나와 뭐시고 왕치 마토바치 냠는 제베네 똑바 기기요 말 되네 냥아치 뭐 최고 된자다 왕슈세 된다디레 왕슈세 시크로직 작바르 베지다 왕슈세 나가 냠는 제래 나래야 냠는 제초바게 나와 제로시 수요데 되는 말라말슈 라미기 왕나는 디켜라디 두두 셔와든 냠는 제네 디기레스 마 왕체로 나야데 다시 왕세데 된다 시크로직 베지다네 되네 최고래.
we've come across this term here of initiation. I think it was initiation for the first time. This is because in the sutra practices, there's no need for an initiation, but it's indispensable to engage into tantra or mantra. And so what is the purpose then of an initiation? So just as says the translator, this word is translated in two ways, initiation or empowerment, so they're synonymous. So the purpose of an initiation or empowerment is one is initiated into a practice or empowered to do the practice. So the word empowerment is more literal, it's closer to the Tibetan, because it is literally the word for power or strength. So one is given permission, granted permission to engage in a particular practice, hence one's initiated into the practice, or empowered to do the practice. And the purpose is, just like in society, many things one should receive permission to do before one does so. And if one does not receive permission but just does so, one will receive problems. It won't go so well. So for one's tantric practice to be successful, one needs to be initiated into the practice or empowered to do the practice. So this is the purpose of an initiation or empowerment. Then thank you. We can conclude there for our weekend. And next time we'll continue up in the monastery. Thank you.